just say if this MasterCard symbol was an addition problem, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Let's just say the red is a 2 and the yellow is a 2. The red circle is equivalent to 2 and the yellow circle is equivalent to 2. Well, our answer, when 2 plus 2 come together, they would make 4. It would be in the middle, just like you see here. When you bring things together, the sum of those things is always at the center. When you bring all of the corners of a pyramid together, a peak is created in a direct center of the pyramid. The peak is the seal, the great seal. And you see why it's called a seal. When you look at a pyramid from the top view, the peak is in the center. What I told you about your woman's peak. Her peak is in the center of her legs, called a vagina. Where the peak on a pyramid is the climax. It just means the sum or the summit. The peak of 2 plus 2 is 4. That's why it's called the answer. That's the climax. Think of a man and woman having sex. What is the climax? The end part, the orgasm that happens. So it's this peak, this climax, this summit, this revelation. It's a concept. This peak, if we look at a pyramid here from a top view, this peak is also the great seal, the royal crest. This would be the equivalent of looking at Nut from the top view. The pyramid is the cosmos. And if you think of Nut as a pyramid and Geb as the earth plane, you see that this pyramid from the top view resembles something called an envelope. And what you do with an envelope is you lick it and you seal it. Pyramid top view resembles an envelope or a seal. Why is an envelope called an envelope? And why do we say we're sealing it in the back? Because where you're licking that envelope, that's where the great center of the earth is. The tip of this thing where you lick at to seal this envelope, that's X marks the spot. And you can see you got 2 hourglasses that's creating the seal, or what's called a Masonic bow tie. When you get an hourglass vertical and an hourglass horizontal, it's a spiral, or the Milky Way. The Milky Way don't exist. They're taking this ancient concept I'm showing you now and corrupting it. If you take a seal, or for example, this in front of you, if you take an X and you put that X inside of a circle or a square and you start spinning it, you'll create a spiral. When you spin an X, you create a spiral. I'm saying this because you don't live in the Milky Way galaxy. You live in the earth heart, and at the center is a hole. Just like at the center here, it's where X marks the spot, the bull's eye. This alignment that's happening 23rd, this is when the arrow is going to be shot into the middle of the target, meaning that you're going to have a linear alignment of these planetary bodies. When we talk about a seal, it's a bond. It's a covenant. Remember the Ark of the Covenant? It's the arch of the covenant, meaning the sky goddess Nut, who's making that arch with her back, and she's bending her, making the arch like this pyramid. From a top view, we can see she is the great seal. I brought that up to say that when you say seal, it's S-E-A-L, because that's what you do to the envelope. You seal the envelope with your spit. But when you say seal, it's also C-I-E-L, dealing with sealing, dealing with the roof of your house. So why is the roof of your house called a sealing? And also something that bonds a covenant is called a great seal or a sealing, because the covenant resides in a woman. Remember that the arch that her stomach make is the roof for the baby. Your first house when you came to this earth was the inside of your mama's womb. That was your home. She created an arch over your head with her body, and her vagina was the door that you walked out of. So the woman builds a house for the baby with the very fabric of her flesh. She builds a dwelling. And when the baby is ready to go, then the mama opened up the front door and you see that sunlight. And boy, you go out there and you smell the trees and you can hear the laughter. But it wasn't until you clinked that room In other words, you got to dedicate 9 months of transitioning in the womb, because the body that's being made in the womb of the woman is being housed by the mother's body. But the purpose of the womb is for the baby to create his own house, for the spirit to come into the womb and build a house. So once the spirit builds a stable house for itself in the womb of the mother with her assistance, it now can leave her house and leave dock. It's like a ship, right, that lets its anchor up and goes out to sea. You don't have to be anchored to your mama no more. So they cut the umbilical cord, or the anchor, the ankh. They cut that because you have now formed your mini cosmos, or your ankh, in the womb. The seal is the peak, and the bond, the sealing. Remember, Nut is the covenant, the arch of the covenant. She promising us that she gonna protect us on this earth, and that them stars is balanced. Ain't no meteors, ain't no comets, ain't no Nibiru gonna come crashing to us. Because when you look at the sky goddess Nut, she telling you she got the stars in her body. When you was a baby inside of your mama belly, you didn't ask your mama, is the belly stable? You didn't even have a thought about stability. You was inside of your mama belly just thinking about growing up, making it here, and coming out of the womb. You went inside of your mama belly thinking about, what if her stomach crash on me? What if her belly ain't got a proper roof on it? You knew that your mama's body was stable. You was a baby in her womb, and you didn't question the stability of the dwelling that she provided for you, being the arch of her stomach. Now you leave the belly of your mama and you enter the earth like Gay up here. He's still inside of the belly. Yes, he's a grown man who left the belly of his mama, but he's in the belly of the earth. He's dependent now on the earth. So when you in the belly of your mama, it's the spirit entering that dual state. See, Neath is night. She the same thing Nut doing. Here goes some art that'll show you what I was saying about how the sun actually makes its transit through the body of Nut. I used to say that that was the sun. I take it back now. That's Aldebaran. That's what we're calling Nibiru. You see Nut, you see a red ball by her mouth, and you see this red ball by her womb. That's Nibiru. It's the planet of the crossing. They call it Planet X because it goes through her body. It goes through the seal or the ceiling. Nibiru is called a ninth planet because 9 represents the spiral or the feminine. When you say feminine, she's the feminine because she represents the spiral energy, the curvy energy, the sine wave that was cursed and called Sine. So when you look at Nut from the top view, you can see she's the great seal that envelops the entire cosmos. Now this is called an envelope for that reason. If you think of the word envelope, if you envelop something, you encompass that entire thing. And when you say the word encompass, all compasses point to the great mother. She encompasses the whole cosmos. She envelops the entire earth. So an envelope is something you seal, and I just showed you when you dealing with an envelope how just sending out mail is a form of a ritual, dealing with as above so below. I keep telling y'all, everything we do is symbolic. You get 4 pie slices with that envelope, and keep that envelope in your mind. That's the top view of a pyramid. Where you seal it at represents the great seal or the arch of the covenant, and your spit, your DNA, is what bonds the envelope. Nut represents the DNA. Remember Neath? Neath is Nut. What was Neath? She was a symbol that looked like DNA or string theory. DNA is the string theory. It's woven together like a perfect braid. And when you look at the number 8, it's the hourglass or the DNA, a perfect braid. I showed you a picture of the sun making its transit inside of Nut's body. I keep calling that little reddish orange object the sun, but that's actually the second sun. That's what they're calling Nibiru. And the reason we don't always see it is because what you see in this art. Nibiru enters a portal. Where does Nibiru come and go from? Well, me personally, I believe that just like in our reality, we got all of these streets and blocks and highways, but sometimes we can take a shortcut through an alley. When you turn off of a main road into an alley, you disappear. And guess what happens? You pop out on another side of a main road. If somebody didn't know that there was a shortcut there, they would say, where the hell did you just come from? But if you look at this art here, Nibiru never left us. What we're calling Nibiru is Aldebaran, and it was called something different by the ancestors. You know, you can research that, but it's a reddish orange thing. We see it all over Kemetic art, and it's something that the scarab beetle is dragging along the desert. And in Kemet, we worship this scarab beetle. In fact, when you say scarab, you hear the word Arab in it. We know that the Arabs or the Arabs are the people who have a lot of this knowledge of the genie. The genie is the Genesis. Remember, the Genesis is the first book of the Bible. But who is the genie? If Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and the word Genesis come from the genie, who is the genie? The word genie comes from an ancient concept called Nagini. And a Nagini is a half person, half snake. This is an example of a Nagini. The synonym equivalent to Nagini would be mermaid. So we love the mermaid. The Moors say that they originated from a mermaid. But if you look at the Moorish fairs, it's the beehive of the bee goddess. And what the Moors originate from is the great mother, where we all originate from. Everyone traced their origin stories back to a fish creature, a reptile people, snake people, some serpent woman, a fish woman, because this is all symbolic of the waters above Nut. The waters that's in the pregnancy of a woman. Waters move in waves just like the snake. So the woman and the water are synonymous. And the man is synonymous with fire. The Nagini is who? The genie, the Genesis, the one who has the genes because she got the mitochondrial DNA. She's the lineage. The genie, the Nagini, is Ketu, the bride. If you see here, her tail would be the long wedding dress, and her queen's crown would be the veil. So the bride wears a veil and she has a tail. And you see this in a lot of superheroes. For example, Batman wear a veil and have a cape for a tail. But if you look up a deity called Ketu, Ketu is the Vedic equivalent of the dragon, or the veil and the tail, the one that covers its head with the veil but drags the tail. And that's the woman. The woman isn't head heavy. She thinks more with her intuition and inner soul, inner being. The man is head heavy. We're Rahu, and the woman is Ketu. Therefore, the woman is not the head, but that was flipped today, where they actually removed the woman from the head of the household. She's not the head, but she called the shots. When I say she called the shots, she makes the law. Man then go and enforces the law. So fire will burn you when you pollute the water. Water is the law. It's the rhythm of the feminine, of the mother. You look at water and fire being polarities, even when you think of red and blue. If you got something worth saying, say it like the lion you are. And women, if you got something worth saying, say it like a woman, because I don't want to hear women yelling like me. Each role can be the best it can be if it stick to its role. Women will hear you louder if you spoke softer. And women will hear you louder if you talk like a man. All right, this is what compassion gives you. But what is compassion? Compass. For you to have compassion, you got to have a compass, a moral compass, pointing you to the great mother within yourself, the dark part of you that's merciful, that's understanding, that's caring.